right, hello everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at 3 episodes from the 97 Spider-Man cartoon TV series.
That's right, and unfortunately, G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor could not be with us today, but that's okay because we've got returning guest Erica Rock with us. Woo! Hello, Erica. How's it going?
Hi, thank you. It's good. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Sweet. How's your summer been?
Busy, but good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I love summer.
Me too. I mean, except for the heat. I like everything else about it.
Hasn't been too bad, though, don't you think? Like, it's been hotter.
I think it's the hottest summer since the 1800s, but other than that, I think it's fine. Yeah.
You know what? Here in Windsor, it's been pretty mild compared to the last few years.
I thought so. Like, ask anybody who had a pool, and they'll tell you that they didn't get to use it as much as they did last year or the year before.
Yeah. It's hot everywhere else, I feel like, besides Windsor this year.
I don't know. I can. There have been summers where I go the whole summer with no air conditioner, but this summer I could not do it.
What?
So,
really?
I'm not designed for the heat. Like
I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Spidey cartoon episodes because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Now usually we each summarize one episode. Erica, if you don't want to, that's fine.
Oh. If you would have told me that, I might have wrote some stuff
I would have sent you an email before today.
Right?
Right. Okay, how about
I kind of
Josh?
dozed off during one, too, so
Did
don't
you?
ask me.
I was going to say, I watched the Vampire Queen a little while ago, but I feel like I could kind of recap it.
Sure.
So we'll start off with that one. That's Season 4, Episode 7, Partners in Danger, Chapter 7, The Vampire Queen. So Morbius is still on the run. Felicia Hardy is in love with Morbius because they went to school together, and she was kind of there when he got turned into a vampire. Recently on the last episode, there was this big thing where Morbius came back, and Felicia, who is the Black Cat and now has superpowers and can kind of like grow almost like the Hulk. Like she gets big and strong for some reason. She was supposed to save him and turn him back into a human, but that ended up not working out, and Morbius runs away. So this episode, we have a bunch of characters showing up. We have this new vampire queen lady that we see is being hunted by Blade. And there's this like confrontation at the start, so we're introduced to her and Blade, and Blade chases her down to her castle. I can't even remember where. It might be Transylvania. And they kind of have a little fight there, and it turns out that she is looking for the machine that turned Morbius into a vampire. So we catch up with Spider-Man and Morbius, and this vampire queen is able to trap Morbius down because they share thoughts because they're vampires, because apparently that's a vampire rule in the Spider-Man universe. So it turns out that she is his mother, and that's how she convinces him to work with her. So she's able to like find out where this machine is, which it's currently being held at the high school, or I can't remember, maybe Deb knows where Deb knows where it is and how to use it. So she goes and like sucks Deb Whitman's blood and gets all the information from her, and then goes into Kingpin's headquarters and steals this machine. And
it's at Empire State University, right?
I believe that's where she goes to get the information of where it is, but Kingpin is currently holding it, I believe. I think it's in his facility because he gets upset when he like walks into his science lab and the Vampirinator is they have a word for it. No, it's like mutagenic
I'm looking it up right now.
What is it?
Oh, neogenic recombinator.
Yeah,
that's right.
Recombinator. It's ridiculous.
Come on, Erica, this is serious stuff. Don't laugh.
Yeah, stop laughing. Come on now.
Sorry.
And then the police chief, I can't remember her name either because she's not in the comics. And
I can't remember either. It's not Violet, is it? Jasmine?
The police chief. Oh my god.
Police chief is it Terry Lee? No. Miriam Brooks?
No.
She's
Spanish, is she not? Does she not have a Spanish name?
She sounded black to me.
I'm looking. Well, there's someone played by Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek. So their character is Miriam Brooks.
That's her.
Okay. Well,
no, she's the mother of Blade. She's the mother of Blade.
Yeah. Okay, I thought so.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Anyways, she is in love with Blade, who we see their like budding relationship in like previous episodes. Anyways, they all team up to track her down and pretty much stop her from turning the entire city into vampires. At the end of the episode, Felicia, Blade, and Morbius kind of like team up and form their own like vampire evil hunting squad. And Spider-Man and the police chief are kind of left alone once again as his new love interest, Felicia Hardy, is off with some other dude, and her love interest, Blade, is a dick. And
chasing after his mama. Yeah,
and that's it. It was an episode. A lot of stuff happens, and it just kind of like,
Well, I'm not going to say anything, but first, I want to know, Erica, are you familiar with the character Blade?
Ish. Was he played by Wesley Snipes?
Yes.
In a very terrible movie that I've never seen. So,
to be fair,
is it terrible?
The first one was okay. And Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, was the second one not directed by Guillermo del Toro?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, so then maybe I need to revisit that.
Decent movies, yeah.
So I'm only familiar with that he's part vampire, but he is also a vampire slayer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's about all I know.
Because he's half. I don't think he was, if I'm remembering correctly, he wasn't bitten by a vampire. His father was a vampire and his mother was a human. So that's why he's able to walk around in the daylight.
Okay.
Right. But now here's the thing, though, is this character in this cartoon is very un-Wesley Snipes-ish looking. In fact...
And sounding.
He seems to be colored as a Caucasian, which is a little ridiculous, but what can you do, right?
It's weird because there's so many things about this cartoon, all these cartoons. I have so many, and of course, a lot of it involves hair. His hair appears to be like an afro type black person's hair, and his voice is sounding like he's trying to deepen it. If we're going to go with the stereotypes, my friend hates when I say this kind of stuff, but a lot of times black men have deeper voices.
Yes. This is a fact.
And then his mom has the terrible afro-y looking mullet. But she's also kind of green or blue or whatever, right? So, but her hair's terrible too. So it's like they kind of match in that regard. The way I'm going to fast forward to the Goblin dudes. Their hair matches too, which I don't understand why their hair looks like that. But
yeah.
No one does.
It's hard. Oh, damn it. I was hoping you'd explain that to me.
No. So, it's a big mystery on the internet.
It's really weird.
They both have like waves and
it's like,
and they're also redheads. Like, you know what I mean?
They all just got back from Jamaica, both of them. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And on the plane, they got, what are the cornrows, whatever they're called? Anyway.
Well, to me, it looks like finger wave. Like they're trying to intimate that he has like almost like finger waves.
Right.
Yeah. But why the red? Anyway,
and
we're
like
not talking about that one.
Insane widow's peak on both of them.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So It's hard to say, like, it's like they tried to make him sound tough and I don't want to sound like a racist, but sound black.
Well, yeah. The actor.
Is he supposed to be?
Blade is 100% black.
Yes.
The actor who's doing the voice of Blade is black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
He's played by Wesley Snipes in the movie, and the next guy who's going to play him is, what's his name?
Mahershala Ali.
Yes, so clearly he's black.
Okay. I'm not saying anything rude here.
Yeah,
but he's a very light black person.
Who, not only is he light-skinned, but he has, like, auburn hair. Like, come on, right?
Yeah, it's really strange. I think he also looks better in these episodes. When he first appeared, he was like a white man. Like there was no mistaking
color.
it. He just looked like a white dude.
Yeah.
It was really, really strange. Yeah. But yeah, this one was maybe my least favorite of the three. Okay. I feel like there were again with these episodes, it feels like there's just way too many characters in here that don't need to be thrown in for a short 22-minute cartoon. Like, sure. I don't really think Blade necessarily needed to be in there. They could have just written it about Morbius and the vampires and Felicia's relationship with him. They didn't need Terry Lee, who is the police officer. I looked it up.
Okay.
I don't think they necessarily needed Terry Lee in there. They also had the other guy too, who was driving the van. I can't remember his name, so I didn't mention it.
Yeah, he was the one that got his ass handed to him a little bit, and they had to like pick him up, and it was like Whistler, his science that they were using. Was he at the club?
Oh, I don't remember. I just watched these.
Abraham Whistler is like a mentor to Blade, I guess. Okay. I guess he taught him how to vampire hunt.
Is he the guy that was played by Chris Christopherson in the movies?
Good question. That's a good question.
I feel like
I'm not sure,
the cartoon looked sort of that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just thought, first of all, I only watched the intro to the one. It is the longest, most ridiculous intro to a children's cartoon that's only 25 minutes long.
You mean the flashbacks?
No.
Way to waste a good 15 minutes at the beginning, right? When they're just like, it's the song is happening and there's like no Spider-Man. Like, where the hell is that? Anyway.
Yep, I'm with you.
I don't know much about Morbius. I know that everyone thinks the movie was terrible.
Yes, it was.
But from this cartoon perspective, his face is horrid. He's got that weird, like his nose is cut off. It's like, aren't vampires supposed to be hot? And even that one guy was like, what's with you ladies and vampires? And I was like, I don't know about that one, but he's terrible looking.
Well, this is like the old school vampires. Like, have you ever seen Nosferatu, the movie?
Yeah. Parts of it, I think.
Yeah, like he's supposed to look like a rodent, and this like Morbius, I don't know, like that nose is supposed to look like, I don't know,
a bat nose.
Yeah, like a bat nose.
I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Because they have like those big, like
it's like nose. A big high.
Yeah.
And also, can we just say the Captain Crunch? No, like what's his
Captain
name?
Crunch.
Count Chocula
okay.
Accent from whatever place there's. I'm like, it's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, even Felicia Hardy, there was a moment where she all of a sudden had an accent when they were all fighting. Did you guys
she had to
notice
drop
that?
it because it sucked.
Yeah, what happened?
She couldn't keep it.
Well, she's never had an accent up until now. Like she never talked like that.
Is this the mum?
No, the black cat.
The black cat.
Black cat. Yeah, she got some weird. Yes.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. I did like this one.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us why you liked it.
Because it was insane. All the stuff, it was like, it actually made me laugh. Like how, I think it was, like I learned about a bunch of characters, having not a lot of experience with this. But, like the ridiculousness of Blade grabbing onto her cape and it comes off and falls down. Why does she have a cape on? Because she clearly doesn't need it to fly because she keeps flying. Mm-hmm. And it just like, I liked how ridiculous the whole thing was. And the part in the bar when she starts shooting the disco ball and all the reflection starts turning everyone into vampires.
So
I thought
ridiculous.
that was pretty excellent.
Yeah.
And I was like, also, isn't there only one way to make a vampire? Like, bite them and make them a vampire?
Well.
Yeah.
No?
Well,
I've
according
got
to
some news for you.
Okay.
There's no biting. These vampires do not bite. They have all the fangs, but they don't
they have
do none
suction
of that.
cups on
They
their
have-
fingers, right? They
Yeah.
never call it blood; they call it plasma. I want your
Yeah.
plasma. I need your
What?
plasma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
they
had
kept
to-
saying plasma.
Yeah, they had to unfortunately change it due to ratings, like
Well,
so they
like, yeah,
could
like
air it on TV
yeah.
Oh.
for a kids show. Yeah, they couldn't mention blood. They couldn't show vampires biting, so they changed it so he has suction cup suckers on his hands.
I did not
And
know that.
They also are not allowed to have guns. So everybody in the show, I don't think anybody necessarily had a gun in this one, but everybody has laser guns in the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lasers also are how you make vampires.
Apparently, yeah.
Apparently, yes. So
from new technology.
Right.
we should say, Erica, this is the first time you've seen this TV, like this cartoon ever, right?
It appears so because I used to watch it with my brother. Like, so the links you sent me didn't open it up into Disney. I have Disney Plus, so I just went and found it.
Okay.
And a couple of the ones I clicked on were like the 80s Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's the best one, right?
And I feel like I may have watched some of those.
When you were a
This
kid.
is not like it 90s. What year we're talking? Like 94
Ish, yeah.
to
definitely.
97.
Yeah,
I would have been
I
in
bel-
university, probably not watching it, and we only had one television, so it was like whatever my dad wanted to watch.
Okay.
Right.
So no, I don't think I'm familiar with these. I am familiar with Spider-Man cartoons and the movies, and
Sure.
so no, I don't think I've seen these ones. I did like them.
Good.
I do think, yeah, the animation is sometimes hit and miss, but the animation in these ones I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought so.
and the back, I think because I'm again not a comic book reader, even though you keep inviting me on here. I like the cartoon sort of makes sure you know that it's a flashback when it's happening.
Yeah, gotcha.
I can follow that a little bit better. It works with my brain, but yeah, that one was okay. I like the chaos of it.
It was definitely chaotic. I also was like so confused why the vampire queen had telepathy too and could like move things with her mind and control people with her
Yeah.
mind, and it was just like, what was that about? I don't remember. Did they explain that at all? I don't think so.
Isn't
No,
that just a vampire thing?
I guess Morbius can't do it. Blade can't do it.
Well, and she said, I've connected with your thoughts, I think to Morbius, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. And it's like, how come he didn't know that? Like, how did he know she was in there
Yeah, that's how she
poking around
found
in his
him,
thoughts, right?
Yeah.
It's like, seems a little shady.
Yeah, I'm
So-
not too sure how I felt about her whole like story and what was going on with her motivations, but
So here's the thing. I did do some research on bats in the last 4 minutes.
cool.
And I didn't realize, like, I mean, you obviously we all know there's different bats, but I just never really thought about it. But if you look them up, like a fruit bat, to my eyes, kind of just looks like a mouse with wings.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a hammerhead bat, and there's some other bats. But you're right, the vampire bat, that's the one with that upturned nose that
creepy
Morbius.
nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vampire bats are freaking scary. They got the big ears.
Yeah, they got
like,
creepy a little bit. Yeah.
Holy moly. And then have you guys ever seen a fox bat? They're the size of a fox. Like they look like a small
No!
child with wings. Like I think it's a fox bat, but you
Maybe.
look it up, or like giant bat or something, and they'll scare the crap out of you. Actually, I'm gonna look it up right now for our listeners here. Let me
It's a
see.
plane.
Giant bat. Oh.
That gives me the willies. An animal like that should not be that big.
Do you want me to send you a link or like just save it?
Wow. It's a fox bat?
No, I think it's just called a giant bat or something. A flying fox bat.
Flying fox.
Did you guys
bat.
find it? Okay, so for our listeners,
I'm looking
look
at it now.
We're looking at pictures of giant fox bats, scaring the crap out of ourselves.
They are
But
huge.
bats are scary, and that is why Batman is so part of the reason Batman is so popular. Like, look at that,
Aw,
Erica.
that's not right.
That's real. Imagine walking on the street and you see that, like
No.
a man-sized bat just hanging. from,
Carry
like, a,
you off.
Yeah,
I think I would
Jesus.
lose my mind.
Oh my god.
There's a chick holding one. It's the size of her.
Right.
Wait,
Ooh.
they do have cute faces a little bit.
Right.
Their wingspan is 5'6".
Oh my.
That's how tall I am.
There's one here that's the size of a man. Yeah, there's a picture that's the size of an actual man. This is crazy.
God.
So one time I lived in an apartment on Perrin Avenue in Windsor, Ontario, and I came home. Actually, no, I was already home. I was hanging out with a friend, and sure enough, I heard some rustling in like my closet, and I went in. There was a bat in my apartment.
No.
God.
Yeah, but thankfully, my friend was a like she worked at like a pet store, so she kind of knew how to deal with it. So she took a Tupperware container and went in while I was screaming in the other room. She went in and like put it into like the container and then let it out, and everything was fine. So she saved me. It was great.
That's great.
They're supposed to be not
Threatening.
like well, their guano and stuff is bad, but you don't really want them in your house. But I feel like they're fairly easy to catch.
Yeah, if it was like a little small one like around here.
It wouldn't stop me from screaming and running out of the house
Right.
and making Dave deal with
Like
it.
like if you saw one of those giant bats, the ones that are 4 feet long, like sitting in
know.
your living room.
I don't know what I would run out.
Exactly.
And I'd be like, call me when it's gone. I will be at the hotel.
Yeah, the hotel. Okay. Anyway, okay. So basically, this might have been my least favorite of the three, but I did think it was okay. I thought it was a decent episode. Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, it was fine. I don't think I was a big fan of the bad guy, and everything kind of revolved around her. So I was kind of like, it was fine.
Gotcha. Erica?
Yeah, I actually liked it. I liked the chaos and weirdness of it. Yes, the bad guy was kind of lame, but I didn't mind it. I was in for it. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm watching a cartoon. And I didn't... I liked all the characters because I was like, oh, I actually know who that character is.
Right.
And I think I know who that character is. Not familiar other than hearing their names and stuff like that, but it made more sense to me than some of the other things you've made me read.
Oh, look at that. Shots fired. All right, anyway.
Pew, pew.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next episode, which is... The Return of the Green Goblin. Can I? You know what? I'm not good at summarizing, but I'll try to do this one. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So this is my favorite supervillain, the Green Goblin. So basically, I'll give the shorter version because my memory is not as good as Josh's. But basically, Harry Osborn is seeing hallucinations, right? Well, actually, you think they're hallucinations of a man. Well, the Green Goblin talking to him. And it turns out they're not hallucinations. It's the actual Green Goblin contacting him from Limbo because he's been trapped there since the end of, I think, season 3, right?
Yes.
When him and Mary Jane both disappeared into another dimension. And so this Green Goblin is trying to convince him to help him get out of this limbo. And so then Harry Osborn dresses up as the Green Goblin. And correct me if I'm wrong, Josh.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile... he's being we're also following the Punisher and Chip, and I don't remember how the Punisher gets drawn into this adventure.
So he's at his wife's and I'm assuming kid's grave, and he runs into Mary Jane's Aunt Anna.
Right.
And
that's
she's
right.
kind of there mourning MJ. So he's like, you know what? I'm actually going to do something good for once and make somebody happy instead of trying to get vengeance necessarily. So his goal is to figure out what's going on and where MJ is. And she has a bit of a vendetta against Peter. So she's like, I think it's got to do with that Parker guy. So Punisher is kind of like tailing Parker the whole time, trying to figure out what's going on.
And basically, and Punisher tracks down Peter Parker to not his own house. Whose house does he track him down to?
Wasn't he at Harry's?
Harry's house.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, or Harry's like estate because he's rich. And Peter's like,
because he's going in as Peter, right?
Right. Yeah. He changes to Peter Parker. He's like, oh well, if they see me, they'll just think I'm looking for Harry. So then he goes in, and then Punisher confronts him, and Punisher's like, every time I, try to find out anything about Mary Jane, there's 3 names that come up: Spider-Man, Green Goblin, and Peter Parker. And now I think I know your secret. And then it cuts to the commercial. It comes back, and he's like, "You're the Green Goblin." Right. So then Peter and Punisher start fighting. Then eventually Peter escapes. And
when the real Green Goblin shows up.
Well, that's later, right?
No. The Green Goblin shows up, and that kind of makes it so Punisher realizes that Peter is not actually Green Goblin.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Punisher stops chasing him.
So he snarkily says, "That's me up there. You think
yes,
I'm the Goblin?"
Yes.
But then at some point, he hops on Green Goblin's little
glider,
flying saucer thing, and in front of the Punisher, right?
That was before. He did it to escape when Punisher was like beating him up in the in like the estate in the Goblin hideout. So he used it just to get away from Punisher, and then Punisher has the van throw like a missile or something at Peter, so he crash lands on the ground, and then Punisher shows up and he's about to like take him out or whatever, and then Green Goblin shows up, which kind of saves Peter. Yeah,
got it. I couldn't remember what order that went in.
Yeah,
and so basically, once Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin, comes into our dimension, he eventually reveals himself to be Norman. So now Harry knows that his father was the Green Goblin. Punisher kind of captures the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn. And
Harry kind of like takes on the Green Goblin persona totally at this point. Like, it's almost like a sickness, like another person. Like, there's Norman Osborn and there's the Green Goblin. And then there's also now Harry Osborn and the Green Goblin. And the Green Goblin is kind of like infected Harry. So there's no Harry at this point. So Punisher gets him and then brings him back to Aunt May's house.
And then at the end, Mary Jane shows up. And so Mary Jane is alive. She's not dead, like we all thought.
And where the hell was she?
She was in limbo, Erica. Another dimension.
They did say that. Yeah. See, because I think this may have been the one I kind of fell asleep in.
Right. It was probably my favorite. But so at the end, Spider-Man is swinging away with Harry, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to get you help, or whatever he says. I don't know. But anyway, the thing is the reason I like this one is because it reminds me of the 80s cartoon that Eric and I grew up with, where Green Goblin was one of the main villains. And Green Goblin's always been one of my favorite characters. And so for that reason, I love this one. And I like how, for once, it didn't have any Kingpin. It didn't have Smythe. It didn't have no vampires, no magic. It just focused on these characters. And Punisher was in it, but Punisher is kind of a more down-to-earth character. And so for that reason, I really like this episode. Erica, what did you think of it?
Well, it's funny because I find the Green Goblin kind of incredibly irritating.
Why do you say these things on this show?
Well, someone's got to disagree. Because and I'm forming it on the Spider-Man movie that what's his name played him.
Willem Dafoe.
Yes, and his voice and
you don't like him and really Willem Dafoe?
I think it's weird. He's mentally ill. He's psychotic, and I get but I get the likability of him because he is a good bad guy and he's a traditional bad guy in the canon of Spider-Man. But this episode, I was just like, I hate this guy. I'm sorry, Mike.
You know, okay. I will say, I think that's the thing that I liked least about this episode was the way that Green Goblin is like talking to Harry.
I like the confusion with that.
I like the idea. It doesn't make sense that it's happening.
Whoa.
Right? You know what I mean? Like even if like make some sort of like BS science-y like fake excuse. You know what I mean? He's just all of a sudden like inside Harry's mind.
I know.
And if it was just like the persona and like almost like a sickness infecting him, it would make sense. But it's the fact that it was actually Norman Osborn from another dimension that I'm just like, what is happening? And then MJ just showing up, and I'm like, okay, cool. They'll explain it in the next episode, and they just don't. I really hope that that's not MJ. I really hope that's not her.
But yeah, I know.
What? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I know what you're saying. It's like maybe if Green Goblin would have appeared as like a phantom in front of him or a vision, but you're right. The fact that he's just in the mirror and he's just talking to him, it doesn't really add up, right? But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it could have been done better. But I guess I love the whole Harry Norman thing and the whole Green Goblin thing, and I thought the animation in this one was really good too. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I thought.
Yeah.
I like the actor that plays Green Goblin. I think it's what's his name? Michael Bell? Bell Biv DeVoe? No, I'm just kidding. I can't remember his name. Let me just look it up. Hold on. Return of the Green.
Never know.
His name is Neil Ross. How did I get that wrong? Neil Ross, who played Dusty and Shipwreck on G.I. Joe and also played Hook, Springer, and Slag in Transformers.
There you go.
Great voice actor. Yeah. Anyway, I did like this episode. I guess, what else can I ask you, Erica? You already said you don't like Green Goblin. Do you like Peter Parker being with Mary Jane, or does it matter to you? Because some people want him to only be with Mary Jane. I don't care. I wish he dated around, like slept around.
Well, I feel like there's where I get confusion because it is Mary Jane, but then other parts he's with. Wasn't there a girl named Liz, or is that somebody totally different?
No, Liz Allen is in this too. For some reason, she just like randomly shows up and he's talking to her, and then she's just gone for the rest of the episode. And
then like the girl who plays
but in the comics he did date Liz.
He did.
He also dated Felicia. Okay. He also dated Deborah. Yeah. We're all in this episode or in other episodes that we
These
watched.
3 episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so do I care if he's with Mary Jane? I just always assumed that he was till I started reading all this stuff and I'm like, well, I don't know. I find it as confusing as some of the other stuff, right? There's that license of there's not consistencies through everything. But yeah, the Green Goblin was I think too I base a lot of my stuff on the movies that I've seen, and that's where my knowledge comes from. And so that whole talking to him was strange because that's what the Goblin did to
Norman.
What was the dad's name? Norman,
yeah.
Right? And that was clearly where he was mentally ill and split personality type thing. But for him to talk to his son, so it was like Harry not know that his dad's the Green Goblin at that point?
No, he didn't.
And sometimes, like in the cartoons and the comics, he'll find out, but then his memory will be erased.
Of course.
Like any good soap opera, right? Yeah, it's awesome.
Of course.
I think that actually could have been better is if he found out that his dad was Green Goblin through looking through documents or something like that in this facility, and that kind of like triggered him to kind of go down the same path as his dad. Like that's when he started having the nightmares. That's when the Goblin started talking to him, and it wasn't actually his dad from another dimension, but it was just like his dreams kind of manifesting, and then the Goblin is kind of taking over his mind just like it took over his dad's. That I think would be fine. You don't even have to like explain that. You know what I mean? Like he just discovers it and he starts having bad dreams, and then he slowly turns into the bad guy. Where this, it's just I don't know what the heck's going on.
Well, it's not perfect, but it's got the Green Goblin, so I like it.
Yeah, and it was fun. I still enjoyed it though.
Yeah,
and he's chaos, right? He's just always throwing shit, smashing shit, causing trouble. So.
So I recommend this episode. Erica, do you recommend this episode?
Sure. It's got all the no, but I would. It's got all the meat and potatoes of a Spider-Man fight with his nemesis, right? It's a classic nemesis, and he does what he does. There's no wing dingy stuff like the vampire one.
I know what you mean.
Does that make sense? I talk stupid, but...
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I gotcha.
Yeah, this one is definitely way more straightforward, and anybody, I think, could jump into it. Even somebody who hasn't seen, like, movies or anything about Spider-Man, they could kind of catch on as to what's going on. At least more in this episode than the previous one.
Josh, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, I had fun. Just like most of these, like, there's obvious problems, but I had fun watching this one for sure.
All right. Okay, now we're going to move on to the final episode of our review today. This is Season 4, Episode 9, Partners in Danger, Chapter 9, The Haunting of Mary Jane Watson. All right.
These naming conventions are wild.
Ridiculous.
This one was my favorite of the three.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun with this one. It's wild and ridiculous and like self-contained, and it starts off with JJ throwing a pirate-themed party at the Bugle for some reason. I can't remember even what they're celebrating. Not important, because pirate robots show up and start chasing JJ, and Peter has to quickly change into Spider-Man and save the day. Throws these robots into the water, and they short circuit, and it turns out that what's been going on is that this was all a ruse by Mysterio, and he's been trying to collect money from a bunch of people. So this was kind of like a ploy to, I guess, get a bunch of rich people's money. I guess there was a bunch of rich people here. So Spidey chases him down and stops him, and he gets taken away by police and thrown in prison. We cut over to a diner where MJ is telling Peter about this story about this woman. Her name is Miranda Wilson. She was an actress, and she was filming on a movie set, and they were driving across a bridge, and Quentin Beck, who is Mysterio, was the special effects supervisor for this movie, and I guess one of the explosions malfunctioned while filming, and Miranda went missing. So she's telling Pete about this because she was actually just cast in the movie to replace Miranda. So she's going to start filming in like a day or two, and it's uncanny how much the two look alike, Miranda and MJ.
Right.
So she starts filming, and as she's filming, she starts getting visions of her father, who has been out of the picture for years, like since she was a little kid. So she starts talking to to her father, starts following around. Turns out that he leads her into an underground tunnel system underneath the film set. and MJ goes missing. So Peter's like, okay, this has to do with Quentin Beck. I bet you that we actually captured one of his really super advanced robots, and that's who's sitting in prison. So he goes to the prison to confront him, and it turns out that that is actually Quentin Beck in the prison and not a robot. So Peter's a little confused as to what's going on, and we actually see once he leaves, Quentin Beck kind of like panics and needs to figure out a way to escape the prison to go and stop Spider-Man from going under there because something weird is going on. So he does eventually escape. We cut over to Peter as he's running through this tunnel system trying to catch up to MJ, and he's confronted by Mysterio, and Mysterio is able to overtake him and throw him into a pit, and then at the last second what comes to save him is Mysterio again. It turns out that Quentin Beck escapes prison and dons his Mysterio costume and stops the robot Mysterio in the catacombs and helps Spider-Man to go and save MJ. So they go, and it turns out that he was like planning this for Spider-Man, and he was building Spider-Man's like toughest foes to fight Spider-Man, but to now save MJ, Mysterio and Spider-Man have to team up to defeat all of Spider-Man's best foes in robot form. And it leads them down to the final base at the bottom, and we see what's really been going on here is Miranda Wilson survived the crash, and she was able to crawl into the tunnel system outside of the film set, and Quentin Beck saved her and saved her life by combining her with like robot mechanical parts so she can continue to live. And
cyborg.
Right. And
yeah,
she has a plan, Quentin Beck and her created a plan to get her a new body where they will replace her mind in MJ's body and put MJ's mind in the cyborg body and swap the two. And it turns out that Quentin Beck actually lied to her and convinced her that this was possible just to kind of keep her motivated to live because she was so depressed after kind of the monster that she turned into. And after the machine was broken, this facility kind of started to collapse on itself and become destroyed. And Miranda doesn't want to leave and said she's going to stay in there. And Quentin, to show that he loves Miranda, even though she is a cyborg, he stays with her as the tunnel system collapses and Peter and MJ are able to swing to safety. While safe on a nearby building, Spider-Man is inspired by Quentin Beck's actions and decides to tell MJ that he is actually Spider-Man. Like he reveals his identity to MJ,
yeah,
and that's where the episode ends.
He pulls his mask off, and then it says to be continued. So,
right.
Next week we could find out Mary Jane reveals that she's blind and she can't actually see his face. Who knows, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's the cliffhanger, though, right?
Yeah.
So, I thought this was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Mysterio, and I think they did a really cool twist with him. I mean, the whole Mary Jane doppelganger was ridiculous, but I thought they used it well. I mean,
and they didn't make her look like identical, right? Like they're slightly different, but it's kind of interesting that it just happens to be MJ.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's exact same hair coloring.
Right.
Except the other chick clearly looked a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think I was lost a little bit on some of it because maybe I was not fully paying attention to some of it, but I just remember her sitting, the cyborg lady, and like her big lament is like the beauty that they stole from me. And it's like, why are women always why is that always their go-to? Now she's like a super badass cyborg. She could probably kick some ass and take some names, and she's all like, but I just want to be beautiful again. Mm-hmm. And then she blows up the whole thing. Isn't it her that's like, I've started the process to blow up
right
that, what is it, lair or workshop? I don't know what the heck it was.
It's a workshop,
right?
yeah. It's a yeah.
But she's all like, I've started it, and you guys need to get out of here. Mm-hmm. But Mysterio's thing is that he can create illusions, right? For you to believe in. Like, that was a big part of, like, Spider-Man. It was like, all of a sudden he's in the snow. And he can't find where he was chasing him or something.
Yeah, and he doesn't actually have any superpowers. So that's all, like, special effects and, like, technology and stuff where he's able to, like, create holograms and illusions.
Okay.
Did you see Spider-Man No Way Home? Far From Home? Erica?
That's the one with
Mysterio.
Our man Jake Gyllenhaal, yes.
Mysterio. Yes, I did see it. I did.
Cool.
It's funny because I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Like, he's great. Mm-hmm. And Dave really hates the Spider-Man movies because they're not done through Marvel. Right?
Yeah. Well, they're kind of half them.
Yeah.
Half. And so it's like, he's really great when he's in the Marvel universe, like with the Avengers and all that stuff. But I don't mind watching those movies. I like them. Mm-hmm. Like, they're entertaining and I like it.
I personally like the Tobey Maguire movies better, but I still think these ones are okay. Yeah. Mm. And the Andrew Garfield ones are the ugly redheaded stepchild of the film series, but
yeah, I really enjoyed him, but yeah, I'm not huge on.
And who's his girlfriend in that?
That's Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
So Gwen Stacy in the comics and in those two movies, she does die, and so they purposely left her out of this cartoon because they thought if they put her in, the audience will just be waiting for her to die. So they replaced her with Felicia Hardy, Black Cat. That's
okay.
And also MJ, they kind of like gave her the dying part because Gwen gets thrown off of a bridge by Green Goblin, and then Spidey tries to save her, but when he grabs her, she like snaps her neck. But in this one, in the cartoon, MJ gets thrown off the bridge, and instead of dying, she gets sucked to another dimension. So she's kind of like assumed dead.
Yep.
Right.
But apparently she's just back. So
she found her way through the hole.
Yeah.
The loophole.
I don't remember the rest of the series. I don't think I've seen these later episodes. So I'm kind of thinking that they're going to do the clone saga with Gwen as well. How Gwen came back as a clone for a little while in the clone saga. I have a feeling that they're doing that with MJ now.
It's possible, but also, this cartoon was being produced at almost before the Clone Saga happened, so I don't know if that's like.
Well, she came back as a clone. In the 80s, right?
Yeah, that was like 2 or 3 issues, but I know what you're saying, but we'll see if it happens or not. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But so Erica, you did enjoy this one then?
Yeah, I liked it. I will say this. I have a really hard time handling A2B continued.
Sure.
As a child, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of television. Yes. And when I saw those 3 words, I was like, I'm never going to get to see the end of it.
Yeah.
But is it to be continued in the very next episode?
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
So if I like really can't live without knowing, I can go back on Disney Plus and watch it later and find out what happens.
No, you know what's funny? I kind of know what you mean, because when I was a kid, I used to buy comics, but because they were sold only at like newsstands, I would buy one, and then 6 months would go by and I'd buy another one, and they would never connect, and I'd never know the end of the story from the previous one, and there was no way to get back issues because I didn't know comic stores existed, right? So I would have like these 5 random issues of a comic that didn't connect, and I would just reread them over and over again and never know how any of these stories were resolved. So I kind of know what you mean. It is frustrating, right?
Yeah. Mine was always with the television, And my parents, my dad makes fun of me, and Dave knows too, that when it says to be continued, it's like anxiety ridden for me because I'm like, well, I'm not going to get to watch it back when you had to wait till the following week. So now when you're binge watching something and it says to be continued, it's like, I don't care because I can just keep watching.
Right.
But that wasn't the case when I was a kid. So this, I'm like, of course it ends on a to be continued, and now I don't know what happened.
Yep. You have to keep watching. That's how they hook you in, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I can go watch it.
So usually when we review cartoons, we ask, or comics, we ask people if this is going to make them want to read or watch more. And I think the answer clearly is that you are going to watch more episodes of this cartoon.
I think so. I have to find out what happens.
But
I also have to start at the beginning of that season, at least.
You mean the series?
Well, yes, or the season that you plunked me in at episode 7.
Right.
I'm like, well, there's like 5-6 episodes I missed out on. So I might start with the beginning of the season.
That's great.
Personally, I think that this show takes a lot of the existing Spider-Man comic arcs and fixes a lot of the problems with it. And kind of like goes back and almost rewrites all of like the problems or the things that people didn't like. Not always successful, but I think does a pretty good job of like recapping from like the 80s to the mid 90s of Spider-Man.
Okay. Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Erica is going to watch more episodes of the Spider-Man cartoon. It's available on Disney Plus. We're basically just shills for big corporations now. That's all we are.
Right.
Yeah. I'm into it, and I'm not sad about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Erica.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're definitely
and thanks for making it cartoons.
Yes, something
different. I prefer the cartoons.
All right.
Oh, really? Well, that's good to know. Okay, we'll keep that in mind for future episodes, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, and just so everybody knows, I don't have my notes open, so you just got to give me a minute here, but Josh is going to tell you where you can find our episodes. Here.
Right. Well, you can find the podcast anywhere you can find podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, YouTube. You can also find us on our website at the Comic Book Syndicate. You can also keep in touch on Facebook and Twitter at Comic Book Syndicate. Please let us know what you guys think about the podcast and the episodes of the show and the comics we're talking about. We definitely want to keep that conversation going, so keep in touch.
That's right, and we want to say hi to Bex Luthor and G.I. Jolie, who could not be with us this week, but hopefully they'll be with us again next week. And next week we'll have a very special guest in the form of Barry Helmer, who will be helping us review the part 2 of the 2-part Venom story drawn by Todd McFarlane. And we'll also be doing Web of Spider-Man 52, continuing the Los Lobos saga, and Spectacular Spider-Man 152, continuing the Robbie Robertson saga. So definitely be sure to join us next week. Thank you, Erica, for joining us. And until next Monday, Spider Friends, go for it!